Well, I'm Fred.
Hi, Fred.
Hey guys. Introduce myself. Well,
I'm being right.
yeah, I know. I'm just trying to think, the normal things that's in that little sheet.
How long you been married?
Yeah, but
Any kids?
yeah, my burning desire is.
foodies.
Thank you. My burning desire is to dance. I want to dance. I've been married for just over a year. I have a stepson. I have a couple dogs. I have now been in practice in my own firm for just over a year. It's been a challenge, but things are starting to pick up. It brings a whole new perspective to practicing law. So you're not just practicing law, you're also running a business. And lots of times attorneys do not make the best business managers.
Something we don't know about you.
Something you don't know about me. Well, if it was something you guys didn't know about me, then I would. Why would I tell you?
Avid skateboarder.
Avid skateboarder. That was back in my younger years. Yeah, there's not much. I'm kind of an open type of book. I can tell you, I was probably before I moved back here from California, I was 3 months away from arguing a case before the United States Supreme Court, but there was another case came down that they wanted to hold off on hearing ours, so I was a little disappointed in that. Because not many people get to go to the Supreme Court, much less argue before the Supreme Court. But anyway, today, I'm not going to lie, I spaced that I was talking. It's been a crazy week. It's been a crazy week. Crazy week. No, I've actually had to concentrate on clients. So I just want to kind of give you guys a little bit of an overview about where I started, how I got to law school, and, where I am now. Originally, when I was in undergrad, I was a political science major, and as with most arts degrees, it's kind of like a non-functioning degree in the real world unless you're actually going to go into politics, and then even at that point, political science degree doesn't really do much. It led me down the path. During college, I worked interned at Senator John Kyle's office, and then later on, somehow Jared convinced me to work with him at J.D. Hayworth's campaign. And after that, I kind of left a bad taste in my mouth about how politics works. So I was looking for a job, and like I said, can't really get much of a political science degree until I had a friend of mine. His mom was an adjuster at American Family Insurance, and I applied there and worked at American Family for 3 years. And I'm not going to comment on American Family, but let's just say I'm glad I don't work there anymore. Yeah, agents are great. Claims, whole different world. Whole different world. Good. But anyway, when I was in college, I thought about doing the law school thing, but I always on my mind that I can't. I'm not smart enough. This isn't there's no way I can get through this. And then after working as an adjuster for 3 years, I really became frustrated with the fact that I didn't want to sit in a cubicle the rest of my life. If you've seen the movie Office Space, you know why. So, it was actually Jared and I started talking, and we started taking the LSAT at the same time. And he got in and went off before I did. So it took me a second time around. So after I applied, didn't get into ASU, and that's the only place I applied. About 2 years later, I reapplied, and I applied to several more schools, and I got into several, one being McGeorge, which is in Sacramento. So off I go to McGeorge, and law school was an experience in that it changed my perspective on how you look at things, and I think that's key for being a good lawyer. When I was in college and everything, and especially working in the political field, you really have a narrow view. You're kind of constrained, particularly when you're with you're affiliated with one of the two parties. This is your outlook, and you don't look beyond that. Law school kind of taught me that you need to open up and you need to look at the world as a whole, no matter what the situation is, be it your client's auto accident claim, or if you're defending somebody on a murder trial, but even just in your everyday life activities. So I spent 3 years in Sacramento in law school, and then 3 years after working for a law firm there. And the first law firm I worked for, actually more of a friend of mine, classmate of Jared's, this guy Roman Rector. We practiced bankruptcy, civil litigation, and then habeas corpus. And what habeas corpus is, it's a civil proceeding, but it's related to a criminal trial. So by way of example is if you're convicted of, say, murder, you go to trial, you exhaust all your normal appeals, through the system, you go to the Supreme Court and they reject you. So your only avenue at this point is what's known as habeas corpus. So you file a civil lawsuit against the state saying, hey, you're holding me due to a violation of my constitutional rights. And most of the time it is under the Sixth Amendment, which guarantees everybody competent right to an attorney. And there's a standard, it's called ineffective assistance of counsel. It means that the defendant's trial counsel messed up so bad, let certain evidence get in that should have gone in, or failed to keep certain evidence out, or just was ethically devoid, or didn't competently represent his client to the level that it rose to that he didn't get his Sixth Amendment right to counsel. So I handled several of those. The law firm we kind of associated with was a little bit on the sketchy side, so I actually had to testify as a witness at the California Appellate Court regarding several of his clients who had made bar complaints against him. And I'm actually listed in a published opinion, and it's not really a published opinion you want to be listed in. So I was there for about 3 years, and the firm I was working at, we started taking off. But I saw this kind of writing on the wall with these RIC clients, that things were just coming to a head. And, my boss was having some personal issues that were clouding his judgment, so I thought it was about time to vacate the premises. So I decided to come back here to Phoenix, and I started working at a small construction firm, and that's how I got into the construction litigation. But I've always, in the back of my mind, still wanted to practice personal injury law, and as a caveat to back up a little bit, when I first went to law school, I was like, I don't want to be a personal injury lawyer. They're just ambulance chasers. They're just preying on, the weak, so to speak. But after I was an adjuster and after I started practicing a little bit of personal injury law, I realized, why not? You don't have to work. If you can get a mill going, you just crank out the cases and they come rolling in, with the idea that they'll let me do certain areas of law that I'd like to do. Like I always wanted to, and I still would like to do, like First Amendment law. First Amendment and the Constitution itself really draws me in because it's a complex document that, people can try and use as a basis for everything, right or wrong. And it's amazing how many people don't actually understand what the Constitution is. That could be a whole other thing. So anyway, I was let go from that firm that I first moved back here, that I started first working for. And then I spent a little bit of time at Jared's firm when he was at Davis Miles. They were actually, was prepaid legal, but now it's Legal Shield. Spent some time there, and 40 miles away, 40 miles each way, just wasn't doing it for me driving, so I wound up with Smith & Craven, which was the predecessor to the firm I'm at now. And that's really where I really started to delve into the construction litigation and helping contractors. And you really get an insight to, contractors are the basis for, without contractors, we're not here. I like to think that, I have an esteemed job and, it's a respectable career. But I think the world, most people here would say we could do without lawyers, but not many of us could do without plumbers. And, HVAC guys and things of that nature. So, and they're the really core of the workforce. So I really, and it's complex law too, when you get into the idea of what mechanics liens are and how contractors have to deal with certain regulations from the ROC. So that kind of brought me to where we were now. 2 minutes? Wow. So I wanted to open up the last 2 minutes. I know this isn't typical, but maybe I had any like generalized, non-complex questions.
I'm not complex. What is a mechanics lien?
Mechanics lien is, it relates to the construction industry, not automotive. Automotive, a mechanic has a lien on the car automatically if it's in the shop. Mechanics lien is a mechanism by which contractors, residential or commercial, can protect their right to get paid. It's essentially an interest or an encumbrance on the property that they're working on. So it will secure them, it creates a security interest in that property for the value of the labor and materials they provided. So say Dom is working on a residential project, it's a remodel, he's got a contract price of $150,000. There's certain steps he needs to take to perfect his lien rights, but he records the lien, and if the homeowner doesn't pay him, he can then foreclose on the lien and take the house and sell the house at auction and get his proceeds. It's a very powerful, back in like 2005 to 2007, it was a very powerful weapon for contractors because home equity was up, it was extraordinary. As the market crashed, liens became less effective because most houses were upside down. What you're starting to see is the market's starting to come back up again, equity's starting to build up. It's becoming more of a viable option for contractors.
How many of those do they actually take place?
What's that?
How many contractors' liens are actually enforced? A lot, a few?
You'll see it more commercially than you will residentially because there's limitations in residential. Only the general contractor or someone who has a direct contract with the homeowner can record a mechanics lien. But in the commercial setting, subs, suppliers, and the general can do it. So in big commercial projects, you see them a lot. They're out there a lot.
One more question.
Charlie?
Is there a flat rate for that, or does it go from how much it's owed or trying to be collected?
For the lien itself?
Mechanics,
Mechanics liens for whatever the value of the labor and materials the contractor provides. So if the contractor provides $2.2 million worth of labor and materials, that includes his profit and overhead, that's how much the lien is for.
But what's the cost to the
file.
to file?
We don't draft liens. We usually refer our clients out to a company called Accurate Lien, and they'll do the requisite 20-day notice, and they'll put your lien together and record the lien. If you actually have to file a lawsuit, the sky's the limit on how much it's going to cost you. Because litigation is expensive, it's time-consuming, and it's usually the last option that I try to get my client resolved before doing that. It's always cheaper to settle than have to file a lawsuit. One more.
What's the time frame on a contractor, and does a contractor have to be licensed in order to file a mechanics lien?
Yeah, and under the laws of Arizona, if you are performing services greater than $1,000, one contract is valued at more than $1,000, that includes your materials and your cost, you must have a license. If you're going to collect on an unpaid debt, you have to have a license. Also, in order to record a mechanics liens, you must be a licensed contractor.
And what's the time frame from when the service was done that he has to?
You have 120 days in which to record the lien, and then once the lien is recorded, you must foreclose on it within 6 months. Otherwise, not only is your that lien exhausted, but your lien rights in total are gone. So it's a much stricter statute of limitations as opposed to a breach of contract, which is 6 years.
All right, very good.